Hi there, I'm Juliana Carroll, and this is my sister and partner in Coffee and Tech, Lisa Jackson. Together, we are your hosts here at the Coffee Tech Talk Show, exploring anything and everything to do with work orchestration and automation.
Welcome back to another episode of Coffee Tech Talk. I am here with a very special guest, but before we introduce him, as always, Juliana Carroll is my co-host. Say hello, Jay.
Hi, everyone.
Please make sure that you all subscribe to our YouTube channel, Coffee Tech Talk, and across the board on our social media at LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Coffee Tech Talk. So with that said, Kristopher Blair, how are you today?
I'm doing very well, Lisa. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome to our show. We're very excited to have you here, and we've got a lot of questions to ask you. But before we get started, how about you tell all of us what you do and how do we find you?
Your sister, Juliana, reached out to me on LinkedIn. That happens to be where I work.
Okay,
I'm a senior site reliability engineer for LinkedIn. And I've been working there. This will be my third year there, but over 10 years of experience in engineering. And yeah, that's my professional background. Also do jujitsu, father of two, and now most recently a new dog.
Jiu-jitsu. Okay, you kind of look like an athlete. How long you been doing jiu-jitsu? Kinda. I don't mean kinda. You look like an athlete.
Thank you. Since 2007, I started at Balance Studios with Nicola Reese Brothers while attending Drexel University.
That's an interesting combination, right? Jiu-jitsu and software engineer or technology engineer. That's two very different brains. So how do you manage that?
You'd be surprised. Tech workers in general, not just engineers, usually get paid a little bit more. So jiu-jitsu schools are just like really very community driven, like exercise. It's similar to CrossFit, but in my opinion, more purposeful. And I see a lot of like tech guys and software engineers from both coasts going to jiu-jitsu and martial arts. Just kind of de-stress, relax, and have some fun with the community. So yeah, I think it's great. Plus, you learn a bunch of cool techniques. That's always good.
I agree with that.
Awesome.
I do Taekwondo.
I guess you got to get those that energy out, at the end of the day after you're like so focused on computers and things, you just want to like scream and just like go crazy and like beat somebody up.
I've always wondered about jiu-jitsu versus Taekwondo, right? Because you guys are, very much, I think, more grappling and low on the ground, whereas Taekwondo, we kind of fly around and, and lots of kicks and lots of stuff. But I think something in common, martial arts have forms and have sequences and have combinations of forms that you can put together to kind of, create your fighting routine, quote unquote, right? Kind of your arsenal of routines. If you really think about it, it's a physical expression of programmers. I don't know, maybe I'm a nerd.
Yeah, Juliana, I think you really hit it on the head there. There's a very strategic aspect of martial arts, either like in Taekwondo, in Jiu-Jitsu, and any type of combat art. You're kind of taking from your bag of tricks and applying things
right.
In a hopefully artistic and beautiful way.
My son is a mechanical engineer, and he's actually taking coding right now, like boot camp coding. So how did you get to be where you are? And is this always what you wanted to be, coming out of college?
Like, how did I decide to go into like SRE and like this type of engineering? And did I originally do that? So the short answer to that latter question is no. I changed what I wanted to do very often in my youth When I was in school, in high school, or just starting high school, I wanted to be a lawyer. So I was doing my business law classes, but I never really put any effort to that after high school. And I had a failed attempt at going into the armed services. I wanted to be in the army, I wanted to be an army ranger. Ended up getting a medical discharge within boot camp. Had an asthma attack and a bunch of health issues. And then I kind of like faced a point in my life where I wanted to do something, but I didn't know what it was. So being in the New York, New Jersey area, I started doing acting and just kind of going up to New York, Manhattan, doing like background acting, talking to people, just kind of finding myself. And that's when like family members, like my uncle and my mom are both kind of in tech. They started, giving me the talk, like, you have to earn money one day. You have to, take care of yourself. So in lieu of that, I started studying computers. Then I made the decision I wanted to be a software engineer. So most of my 20s was aligned to, okay, how can I recalibrate myself to be a software engineer? So I ended up doing that, and from there, I found that I loved automation. I loved the cloud, and I had worked on a bunch of different teams. And I was thinking, how can I really utilize my experience? Because I had such a diverse experience across many different jobs of software engineering, and what have you. So SRE just kind of made sense. And originally, before I came to LinkedIn, I was doing what's called like DevOps work, development operations. I think it's probably what that stands for. So it's kind of like the in between like a very software development focus and a very operational focus. And it's kind of what SRE is, but SRE is more kind of formalized and more of a cultural discipline. So that was kind of my progression.
What is it that you do? What is SRE?
What is SRE? And I'm guessing you guys want like very layman's terms.
Yes.
So the best way and quickest way to explain it is like through site availability and what we call site up. We want the site up and available. For LinkedIn, you want LinkedIn to be available when you go to LinkedIn, and you want all your services that you expect to be there. So even if it's up and it's doing something, is it doing what it's supposed to be doing or what the customer thinks it's supposed to be doing? And that's when you begin to get into, I think, the more technical aspects of like, how do we say what the customer should expect at any given moment? How do we do that for a massive amount of customers like all around the globe? And that complexity is everything that is within like SRE and site reliability engineering. One thing I do want to say is that sometimes from company to company, it's going to be called something different. Like I know Facebook has a different name for it, and even LinkedIn itself, we've moved to just call it site engineering. But it's all in the same kind of site reliability engineering umbrella. I think Google was the first company to come out with like that role, the site engineering reliability engineer role. And they have a great book that really captures in good detail a lot of the more technical aspects of it.
So what do you think is different between the SRE and the traditional network operations center, right? Is it the people, the process, how you guys troubleshoot, or is it, do you generally have different aims to begin with? Instead of break fix, you monitor for, a certain level of availability, and when, availability is trending anomalously, then you start reacting. I mean, what's the difference than the traditional knock, right? Say.
Number one, there's no real integration to the culture of engineering, with just a traditional operational team. And also, I think the scope of the work it's very distinct and strict in that, you know, if you work in the NOC, you do like XYZ, you may have a procedure for,
Right.
You know, recovering a server somewhere, like around the world.
You have runbooks and you have operating procedures and stuff like that. Yeah.
And I've been like associated with these teams, and like we even had like safes where we kept all these like books, and like if this happens, then open the safe and get this out, and like follow like line 2, and then if this happens, go to line 50. And, all these. So, and SRE, it's more it's more variable in what you do, and I don't want to say dynamic, because like you do have like a very distinct goal, and everything is measured, and actually that's part of SRE, is getting like the right data into the view of the right either managers or developers or your partner teams. But it's a discipline which we could, like one day you could be designing a database, another day you could be writing software, another day you could be consulting like a development team on something, and another day maybe you're just doing recruiting efforts and just promoting like your the brand and the organization to potential recruits. So it's kind of more of I say it's more of a cultural thing, because it's a like a first-class organization within a company, rather than like a tech team, if that makes sense.
Does it mean that then the members of the SRE team therefore have much more varied experiences and, you know, of the environment that they're managing, because they're not just troubleshooters, they're also at some point designers, coders, architectors, and, you know, and integrators, right? So they get to experience the day-to-day of the maintenance of it, and not just, you know, oh my God, something's breaking, you know, step 1, go to level 1, step 2, go to level 2, step 3, go to level 3, that kind of situation, right?
I would say so, even though that for SRE, I can really only speak for my experience at LinkedIn, but I assume it's very similar at other companies, and especially going from, like I mentioned before, like the DevOps work to like a fully fledged SRE org. I see a lot more diversity in SRE than DevOps. Like DevOps, it was basically another field of software engineering. Like it was also software engineering or software engineers doing DevOps stuff. So it wasn't really distinctive in that way to just your regular software engineer. Whereas at SRE, I meet people like from so many different backgrounds, like from like formal education to like former business owners, philosophy majors, and it's like the list goes on and on. It's like a very diverse group of people. So, and that's been like very like amazing to be a part of, because like I said, like coming from the world where you're doing DevOps and more operational stuff, it's a very different kind of cultural change in that, just the people aspect as well.
I wanted to ask, you know, for someone like me, how does what you do impact an individual, the end user?
Well, it's almost a direct impact. So when SRE is usually manage the pipeline that delivers new services or products to the user. So when you, and we could look at LinkedIn, for example, when you're on your, if you're doing a job search, that's like a product within the company. And we have developers behind that creating the product. We have so many changes that can go in at any given time. And then with those changes, we have like sort of like a measure of how much errors or like how many incidents that we are currently dealing with on like the data center side, the company side. So like, let's say, for example, if somebody pushes out a bad feature, if you go into LinkedIn and you do a job search and you get like a 404 error or something like that, and then like or something breaks or it gives you back the wrong information. If too much of those type of incidents happen, like the SRE org is actively measuring that, and we can put like a halt to all of the future deployments on all the changes, or prioritize certain changes that will remediate the error in some cases. And sometimes there are like security concerns where we have like malicious actors out there trying to scrape or attack the site. We have all the data in front of us to kind of identify these individuals and kind of put those to the side into like a quarantine where we have like another investigative team to kind of take that forward. So like in terms of members, we're kind of ensuring that the reliability of your member experience.
So you don't get annoyed when you click a button on LinkedIn, nothing comes back.
You know, it's kind of crazy. You don't. I mean, I don't think about any of those things, right? When I'm needing something, I just click a button and just it happens. And here you are, the guy that could be behind all of that, you know, on LinkedIn. And I use LinkedIn all day, every day, you know, for my business and my career. So it's kind of crazy. Very cool stuff.
Thank you.
So does anybody call you, or do you manage your work based on data? I mean, how do you prioritize things? And what's some of the coolest things you've done?
Okay, so first on the prioritization. So as I mentioned before, like SRE is really different because it's like a very cultural change for an organization. So we have our own management hierarchy and our own decision makers. And that's very beneficial because that lets like the executives of the company, like that puts SRE in the minds of and at the table with the executives, so they can make decisions too. We like look at availability. Going back to availability, we have like availability scores that are like 0 to 100. We popular pattern is to have 3 nines availability. So it's like 99.9 availability.
Right.
So 99, that's supposed to say like 99.9% of people like hitting that service get, you know, what they expect out of that service. And that becomes like a key metric for, I think the business term is like a KPI, a key performance indicator, like where you can take that and you can give it to like a business person, and now they have something to it, like kind of attach like the SRE effort to. It's like, oh, okay, what does SRE do for like the business leader or the executive? They make your service and your products available. And like since we have our own like hierarchy, that enables the specific people in management to have those conversations and just work on that and that aspect of it. Because one person can't do anything, or one team can't do anything. It has to be like a structured thing and widely adopted thing.
So now, sorry, you want to ask? Can I ask?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, now that you are on our podcast, you know, and we very rarely meet the engineers or the people behind the scene, right, so to speak. You are kind of behind the scene, and people are probably going to be like trying to find out how to get in touch with you. If they have any problems with LinkedIn, they're going to call you. Is that going to be a problem? Because now that I know you, I'm going to be like, Kristopher. going on?
Yeah. And I am going to refer you right to our public relations team, or I think we have communications teams for that. So,
That's not going to be a problem.
Fair enough.
And I don't mind doing that. So if you have a problem with the site, you can always reach out and I'll make sure the right person knows.
Okay. So
because we do have a lot of projects and a lot of features. I know I'm saying this, and then you could be imagining that I'm like the kind of like the wizard behind the curtain on everything in LinkedIn, but there are so many different products and things going on like behind the scenes. We have a great team of engineers, and everybody's always churning out new features all the time. So another reason why I would hand it off is because I don't have all the answers to all the problems. So rather than try to address problems I don't understand, I would just send it off to communications.
Got it. So let me ask you this question. If you were given $1 million for your department, what would you use that money for? What would you use to improve your department? What would you do to improve your department?
Interesting question. I think I would probably try to pitch a VR product and use that $1 million as funding to just get the ground running, get the ball rolling on development of a VR experience with LinkedIn. I don't think we have one yet, and I think it's an area where, since people are spending much more time at home, I think VR is going to be with us for a while and just get better and better. So I think I'm going to invest in VR.
What would you do with the VR? Like, what would it do for us as the end user to see that, or to use?
Well, see, and I'm going to answer this because you framed your question like, what would I do within the company, like my current company? So I would go and I would put an experience from LinkedIn within like a VR context. So you would have you'd be able to apply to jobs, you'd be able to like check your messages, look at some sort of feed, all from a VR experience. And I say that mainly because I think VR is cool and not much more than that. But but if it was just kind of outside of the company and you just said, hey, here's $1 million, go do something cool, I'd probably build a jiu-jitsu school.
Okay. Hey, you could do a VR jiu-jitsu school. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
One last question about the pandemic. What is the biggest difference that you've seen since this whole pandemic started, based on this year versus 2019?
Generally, I think the pandemic gives a lot of opportunity for LinkedIn specifically in job sourcing and enabling people to not only find jobs, but we also have products like LinkedIn Learning, which can really like level up your skills if you're out of work or got laid off or like so many people in your business like went belly up during the pandemic, and you're in a situation you have to earn some money, but you know all these jobs in tech, they require like specific skills. LinkedIn Learning is there to kind of bridge that gap. I think people taking advantage of that during the pandemic has been very noticeable. People gaining new skills and leveling up themselves to apply to these new kind of tech jobs that are still kind of thriving in this environment.
And it's definitely a great platform for that. You know, even with Coffee Tech Talk, our main platform that we use to grow the business, and we started this when the whole pandemic started, And we use LinkedIn for that, and definitely have had a good following, and we're getting the word out there for sure through LinkedIn. So yeah, I'm pro LinkedIn for sure. So I'm a fan of LinkedIn, obviously. So I want to say you're working for a great company. If people wanted to connect with you on LinkedIn, or are you open to giving that or not?
Yeah, you can find me on just search for Kristopher with a K, Kristopher Blair at LinkedIn, and I'll be there.
Okay, so stay right there real quick. And everyone, thank you again for tuning in to this week's episode of Coffee Tech Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to Coffee Tech Talk on our YouTube channel, as well as follow us on all of our social media sites at LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Coffee Tech Talk. So with that said, Jay, until next time.
Until next time.